Tonight on Nights.
Now here's a good show.
We got a white Bronco heading.
Or at least Sunday nights with the Black Knight and myself, Joe from Brothers Crin. So I guess, I don't know, does that make me, I'm not the White Knight, but my avatar is more of a, let me see. Well,
The Red Knight?
yeah, we'll go with Red Knight. All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, you guys can all see the screen. Black Knight's written a lot of books, all of them really good. So, but first, I've got a few questions for you, and you must answer these questions. 3 are the other side you see. Now, the first question is going to be, since we're going to be mixing this interview and freestyle, how did you first get started as a creative?
Well, I'm not sure that we talked about this last time. And for those who not watched us yet, I did start quite early with some tiny stories and tales, which in some cases I actually improvised them on the spot because we had like really cool teacher, literature and language, and she asked us. Sometimes she asked us for stories, and she didn't even give us like specific themes, and she was just like, just freestyle it, like let's see what you can imagine. And I think that was probably one of the best things back in the day, because the rest of everything, pretty much everything, was gray and gloomy and annoying and sad, as you know. Not real communism is how should I put it? It's lame. But of course, after that, I kind of fell in love in books and adventure novels and science fiction, hard science fiction, and fantasy, of course, which you like to call something else. And I think you are quite right.
Futuristic? Mythic is how,
yes.
like fantasy, mythic,
Yes.
sci-fi, I said should be renamed futuristic.
And I continued writing short tales and stories throughout my school years, and then in high school. And later, I had some ideas, mostly about science fiction, because I was reading quite a lot of tech magazines, because we didn't have comic books, but we had like imported Soviet tech magazines about prototype and just concept airplanes, cars, tanks, even machines, rockets, etc., etc. So it was quite the good food for my imagination. And later, of course, with some more magazines and greater access to after the wall fell, greater access to Western publications, and of course, even more books, and probably one of the first long and fully world built story that I created was it's now part of my main series, the Star Shattered series. But the original was titled Numbers of Society, and it was quite a dystopian post-apocalyptic story, which included nanotechnology and cybernetics, and of course almost a mirror copy of the back then still functioning, quote unquote, functioning bureaucracy that surrounded us and bound us to forever corruption and inefficiency and gray lameness. So one could say that story was the beginning of the world building for Star Shattered.
Okay. So, can I ask which genre you actually prefer?
I actually prefer fantasy.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do. I'm not sure if I told you. I think I may have. I can't remember, but I do actually prefer fantasy, which is because one of the few things which wasn't completely censored was Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
And even during the old days, they have, like in the Soviet, even in the Soviet Union, they had they made movies and published Tolkien. They of course, I mean, there was some tweaks here and there, but by far it was probably the one of the few non-censored works of fiction that we've got, apart from other things which were produced by fellow communist countries. So, but yes, I did really love Tolkien's work, and of course that other spark that moved me more towards fantasy was the adventure books that I read, which even to a tale about pirates and guns and ships and sailing ships, there is quite a lot of fantasy and magic even. So yes, that's my answer.
Okay. Can you describe how Star Shatter came to be?
Well, it came to be because I was I yearned to actually create an alternate history, but I wanted it to be what it once was, in terms of storytelling and composition and characters, and all of the things which we talked earlier about the spirit of truth and the spirit of hope. I wanted it to embolden people, and even though back then I had limitations, I strove to overcome them, and grew swiftly. So the Star Shatter universe evolved primarily first out of that story that I just mentioned. The basics of the world building was taken from that story, and it eventually ended as an integral part of the seventh book that I published. Of course, in the beginning, I had assumed that I was going to publish in my not in English, of course, but I slowly understood that it would be impossible, because I had no connections, I had no money, and pretty much I wrote something that it was too inspiring, too heroic, and too magical for them to put the weight of their publication company behind. So I'm not sure if you've read about the structure, because I decided to use a different structure for the series, including the intro book format, which in hindsight was probably one of my best decisions, which was actually an advice given to me by a critic, an older lady, and she said that it would be much better to be employing such a structure, because this way I would have, I mean, there are some negatives to it, but the positives far outweigh them. So I was able, because of that structure, I was able to afford myself much greater leeway when it came to establishing and fluffing the evil characters, the villains, which is if you ask any of my longtime readers, they all have a favorite villain, even though my villains are quite frankly vile. And that's the point. That's one of the main points. So they all have a favorite villain. So how can I put it? It's a series which has as its pillars the core principles of old storytelling, classic storytelling, with all of these new and exciting things for me, which I learned and modified and developed along the way. And all of this makes the series quite unique, even though it's you can't retell a story about the Holy Warrior not 10,000 times without repeating certain themes and eternal themes, and talk about ideals like honor, justice, self-sacrifice, and then of course flaws. But yes, that's pretty much it without me dropping too many spoilers.
All right. I'm going to use this chance to now segue into two details on your books. One is to ask who did the art for these covers.
It's different because I started with basically nothing, and the covers, as you know, in indie publishing, covers and everything else, it's expensive, and some have access to, like, some have friends who can probably give them discounts, or they themselves have some artistic skill. But in my case, as you can see, the new covers, these are new covers. They are made by a friend of mine, and then a cover artist named, he likes to call himself Neutron Born. And
Cool.
yeah, and the one that you were seeing, the Princess of the Stars cover, is made by a fan, actually. So
Okay.
so that's a thing. I love all of my covers.
I don't blame you.
It's
I had a- Well, I had a fan
the-
who did art for one story, and I just loved it. So
and when you scroll down, if you scroll down and go to the second book of the series, Twin Sons of Carol, Carol.
let me just scroll further.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Twin Sons of Carol. Yeah.
There it is.
So this is actually made by another artist who is I lost contact with him. I hope he's fine. He's Japanese, living in America, and he actually made this is an oil painting.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is an oil painting. The ship. This is actually the brand new prototype Tazaran warship, which the Tazaran Imperium had commissioned to tackle the issues with the Terrans on their border, and it becomes the flagship of the main villain of the series.
It's really interesting how, well, I don't know if it's like this for you, but I've been meeting a lot more oil painters and painters from Asia lately, like from Vietnam, Japan,
Yes.
and other places. It seems like the painting scene, or at least the art scene, which was so predominant in Europe in the 19th
shifting.
and 20th century, has
Yes.
shifted to Asia.
Yeah, everything is shifting to Asia because they're not choking their artists. They do
Yeah.
not impose. I mean, in China it's different, but in North Korea, but in Japan it's mad crazy. I mean, you've been to Japan. If you
Yeah.
go around in I think in Kyoto.
Mhm.
You can find in these like tiny streets these winds.
Yep.
It's
You can see all sorts of
always like you can find amazing stuff, awesome stuff,
Mm.
and you can find a lot of Americana preserved, perfectly preserved, maintained.
You can find
So
like
yes,
Kyoto is a maze within a maze.
yes,
But
that's why.
it's like the
Probably in Tokyo it would be easier
yeah.
to yeah,
Well,
but in
Tokyo
Kyoto
is
they have
larger
more.
and nightmarish. But Kyoto is a place where the back streets are all beautiful and lined with art or with small cafes. The
Yeah.
main streets are labyrinthine and confusing. And then you get to the exterior parts of the city where nature intercedes and you find things like Fushimi Taisha in the mountains and whatnot near Kyoto, and it's just beautiful there. So Kyoto is a very well, I describe it in like this because I've been there a few times. Every
Yes, I
time I
know.
go,
That's why I mentioned it.
yeah. My hope
And
is to be back there in 2025, and
yeah,
this time permanently.
you will, and
Uh,
probably you will. Maybe you will meet uh, a lady who is jokingly. We joke. She's Japanese and a friend of mine. She jokes that she's the number one fan in Japan. Yeah, it's and she's the president of the first Japanese Star Shutter Club fan club. So
Sure.
yeah, well, I'm joking, but when you mentioned Temple, I actually she helped with a lot of the. She helped me because I was fleshing out some of the old history stuff, and because every nation is different and also the same in the Star Shutter alternate history universe. So in Japan they have this temple, which it's a temple dedicated to guns, and because they you know that's the thing, and so it plays a important part in the story, and the plot moves ahead because that scene is quite profound. It's it's also where two of the characters form. No, it's more like they're using a bond that they have to pull off quite the feat, which it's a feat. Let's say without dropping spoilers, it's a feat of alien martial arts and human telepathy. It's made
wow.
possible by yeah. So
All right. Now let's. My next question of sorts is, so is basically to discuss each of these books in brief detail.
okay,
This is book number 1, I believe. Starship.
yeah, that's the intro book. Yeah, that's the intro book. Yeah,
Alright.
the intro book. Its purpose is to
Introduce.
yeah, to distill the basic pillars of the world building of Star Shutter, and also introduce to the reader the main characters of
Yeah.
the crew of IMS Star Shutter. And as such, it is each chapter, like some of the chapters are linked because a character meets another character, etc., etc. So without going into too much detail, it's a chapter per character, and I was forced to cut some of the backstory scenes because otherwise it would have been unwieldy, and it wouldn't fit the purpose of an intro book, and as such it had to be it had to be focused and lean, like not too much fat on
Great.
it.
So we got the theatrical edition. Where's the director's cut?
No, I am posting these bits currently on my Substack. I think I've posted a third of them, which is one about the Marine, one about the hamster, and one about the biker, and one about the spacer lady. So I have a few more, and I will eventually post them, but they will be available forever for free. So that's and of course the ending of the book is such that you have almost this really beloved classic trope that the heroes they meet in a tavern. In this case, it's a restaurant. It's a restaurant, and they not all of them know each other. They're kind of some of them know a couple of the others, and they meet there, and of course there is it's not a bar brawl, but it's okay, let's call it a restaurant brawl. And one of the characters who is the captain, you can see him on the cover with the uniform. It's a quite eccentric race. His people, when they serve in the Navy, in the Star Navy, they love to wear like uniforms over their spacesuits because it's like it gains them fashion points, which it's another aspect of their society, their culture. They have fucking fashionistas. They have fashionistas, and if something is not fashionista approved, you can lose social standing. You can be like, you can even become a pariah. And he's not happy that his dining was an enjoyment of wine, of delectable Terran wine was interrupted. And there is a scene where he actually manages to not spill anything from his glass while he's being attacked, at least for the first few seconds. I mean, he's not.
Then
he's like, how dare you? But yes, this is how the crew is introduced, and they go on their first, let's say, quest together, which
Journey.
is which is the arc, the story arc of the very first character, which was introduced in the book, Lily. So in Star Shatter, you have this alternate future. You have species of animals on Earth who have been uplifted into sentience, and these include gorillas, hamsters, and bunnies. And
Oh,
all
no.
of these
Bunnies.
all of these are illegal uplifts. The humans developed the technology. They did not know that in the galaxy there is a body, governing body called the Galactic Assembly, and they have specific laws for slavery, the laws of eternal servitude and such. So they were like, well, we're being attacked by all sorts of like pirates, criminal cartels and such. We I mean, we need allies, and of course they met some aliens, but it's like the aliens were the actual good aliens. That they are not that many, and the humans were like, okay, let's make our own allies. Like we'll uplift these nice gorillas, and they'll join us if they want. Well, we will not like tweak their genes or anything. Like it's fine. Let them make the choice themselves, and it's probably one of the recurring scenes and themes is that the invasion of the great pirate armada, which is when Pirate Lord managed to unite all the pirate clans in Fringe Space, which is where we are currently situated, and where the most of the adventures of Star Shattered is take place. And Earth was just like one of the places where he decided to just take over on his quest to restore the pirate clans to their rightful place as rulers of this entire part of space. But it was a problem. You see, the humans in the Star Shattered universe, they are not. I mean, they in many ways they are quite like us, but in other ways they are not. They've changed, and they do not fuck around when someone tries to enslave them or their friends, and they would rather die and bend the knee. And these pirates, they've been used to just rolling over some quote unquote native planet, just wiping the population and selling the survivors into slavery, or just taking them over and selling them piecemeal for centuries. But it didn't happen here, and it's one of the things that they attempted to do was to grab the recently uplifted gorillas, and it's probably one of my readers' most like favorite bits from the lore. So yeah, that's about the first book.
All right. Now, even briefer. Twin Sons of Corolla.
Twin Sons of Corolla. Well, it's where we get introduced to the villain's dream team, basically, which is what they think themselves to be. They assume that they are the dream team, and it's the forces of the Tazaran Imperium, led by quite adept thinker named Lord Omasa. And Omasa, it's a glorious Japanese name. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist, and I stole the name. I stole the name. I
What's
took
your
it.
name?
Omasa.
Omasa. Yeah,
Yes.
good name.
It's not Osama.
Omasa.
It's Omasa. It's like so yeah. So they and the ship that you are seeing on the cover. That's his flagship. ITS Empress Throne, because they are ruled by an empress, and it's a bombastic name for a prototype frigate. And by the way, the frigates here, they are the size of Star Destroyers from Star Wars. Ships here are a bit bigger because it's I mean, so in the second book, it's basically this new Tezaran ship against the crew of Star Shattered. And they are fighting over a planet, a very tiny planet where Lily comes from. It's Carola. It's named Carola. That's basically the book is where they actually, like, the rubber meets the road quest wise, and you have all of these story arcs. They are not like 10,000 story arcs, but it's very condensed and paced, and everything moves ahead, in some cases with breakneck speed. So you already know the characters. Of course, now having known the characters, now you have some leeway to explore the various bad guys and girls. So yeah, that's the second one.
Okay. Treads of Vengeance.
Well, Threads of Vengeance, it's the continuation of that battle, basically, and the arc of Lily, where they go to this desolate frozen planet, which have been chosen as a base of the new coalition, an alliance. Well, you can call that an alliance of the bad guys, because Lord Umasa, in his quite spry mind, he says like, "Oh fuck, these Terrans. I don't have enough resources. I need allies. I need other bad guys who hate them." And he forms this coalition, and this is basically the birth of the coalition. And they choose this remote planet, which is owned by the Yarn, which is another bad guy group, another civilization, cannibals, basically. And they serve dark deity, which they basically feed its souls in exchange for power. And our heroes, instead of doing what most heroes would have done, they don't go there alone, and their main goal is to save what's left of the Carolan colonists. So that's the third one.
Von Braun's Gambit.
Yeah, Von Braun's Gambit. It takes place on Earth. It's a change of pace where the heroes go back to Earth, and some of them for the first time, including their captain, who's an alien, who is getting slowly immersed into Terran culture, and it kind of changes. I mean, they all grow leaps and bounds, but the captain is perhaps he can't wait to go to Earth because he's watched movies, old movies, listened to old music and stuff, read books, of course. He's like, I want to go there. And he goes there. And the book is basically, there are no giant space battles in it. There are other battles in it, of course, because it's a hallmark of Starshadder. But you have this change of pace where they kind of slow down. They go basically on vacation. They try to see what bits of their damaged cells can be repaired, can be put back together, and they stumble into different issues, which ends in something called the von Braun's Gambit. That is saved in one of Nikola Tesla's notebooks, because they were friends and they played chess together. So, it ends with a really nice car race, which is how should I put it? It's a race between old cars, really old cars, like the first racing cars. This is like super slick, long cars with thin tires, from the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically go there and they get, and the reader is more immersed in what Earth has grown into in this alternate history, and it's quite fascinating.
All right. Now we have Secrets of Lithoria.
Oh yeah, Secrets of Lithoria. This is it was probably when I published it, was probably my readers' most beloved issue of the series. It's quite fantastic, because it goes from deep space battles and battles with exoskeleton armor and beam weapons and everything, to a remote planet, which is almost like not almost, it's pretty much feudal. In the rulers have this style of governance, but it's where they can attain certain things, and it's titled Secrets of Lithoria because this is a planet with an ancient and both dark and light pasts, and when they go there, they have to be reborn into almost like medieval knights, warriors, which they do, in the simple reason that they are Terrans, even though many of them are aliens, but they follow the Terran codes. And would you imagine what could happen if you fire a space age plasma rifle at straw, or like a small house built by mud bricks?
That's going up in flames.
It's gonna vanish. and so they're not like they're not. No. If we're good, but we're not like that good that we never miss. What happens if we miss? we don't want to kill, like we don't want collateral damage. These people are enslaved. They're fucked up. They have been enslaved for centuries. We don't want to like add more torment and pain. Like this is like we're not coming here for this. Like, but of course their enemies don't care. They don't give a flying fuck. This book ends in a quite spectacular way, and it blends. This is probably where I began to fully encapsulate all the basic like fundaments for my sword and railgun, which is my humble attempt at returning the sword and planet back to life.
Okay. Final Liberation.
So Final Liberation, it's probably the book which has a lot of technical stuff, descriptions of battles and units and such, but it's because it deals with a huge planetary battle and space battles, a number of them, and it's where a lot of things change for not just for the heroes but for the villains, because they this is probably one of the main advantages of the intro book format, especially in such a long series. Like Star Shattered will be a 10-book series eventually. It allows me to have like parallel equal level of growth for the villains and the heroes. So in this book, it's quite brutal and massive and elaborate, battle after battle, but of course it has its secrets and magic, because it's not Lutoria, it's a different planet, but it has different, like there are different types of magic in Star Shattered. One of my readers dubbed them space magic.
Like in Star Wars, space magic. Space wizards.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Except
I mean, some of the people, especially the Averna, they can speak to. It depends, but it depends on person. But they could actually speak to the universe, which is basically the universe is God. But yeah, that's and they have been smeared to be like evil, manipulative, and basically they are called witches. But then I think I dropped a spoiler here. Yeah, that's probably enough.
All right. Prince of the Stars.
Yeah, Princess of the Stars. This is the 7th one and the last that I published from the main series. It's basically the completion of the main story arc of the captain. He goes back to his homeworld. It's an elaborate quest within a quest within a quest, which ends with that story that I mentioned earlier, and that's why I mentioned it. It ends on a planet which is controlled by an AI, or what's left of it.
Mhm.
And this is probably, I mean, you have to read it. I wrote this like it's probably 20 or 25, maybe it pushes into 26 years ago when I conceptualized the story. So some had imagined like certain parallels with things that happened recently with certain injections and such,
That
but
we can't mention on this site.
mm,
No, let's not. We
Yeah.
we all know what you mean.
yeah. So it has nothing to do with this. It's even the characters and the things that happen there. Like I always imagined, at least when I was when I am conceptualizing a dystopian setting, I I try to weave in some cases the most ludicrous and impossible and let's say stupid thing ever, because it's like this setting is the extreme of self-destruction and literally no common sense, brainwashing, and wanton bootlicking and authoritarianism and everything. So I mean, what I imagined and certain other authoritarians in our current day have imagined, it could be quite similar. So that's what I'm going to say. And this book has a lot of fashion in it, elaborate descriptions of clothes, foods, and other stuff, because it's a quest that begins from Earth and ends far away. It's insane. It's really glorious.
Okay, and then we've got, I think, Lord of Bones, which is your most recent one.
Yeah, which is 120%. No, there is no nothing space age in it. Nothing. All technology is medieval technology, and it is pure magic, pure fantasy, pure legend. You have some of my best to date poems and haiku even included in it.
Yeah, I remember some of them.
Yeah, and the priest there, he sings his prayers to his goddess, and then his goddess also communicates in songs and in dreams. She sings to her faithful, and you have distilled really old school, even gaming tropes from the old days, where entertainment was what it had to be. You have 4 heroes who go on a quest to kill the demon lord, basically.
Yep.
He's not the demon lord, but yeah, you get my drift. So they have like they are from different races, They have their special skills. They have, like, it does sound pretty tropey and like,
Those are good tropes.
but it's how you use them. And then you have this this, I mean, I don't know if that should be a spoiler, but you also have the villains who are quite well developed, and the thing with this is that it should be part of a trilogy. Should be part of the trilogy, Lord of Bones, which I don't know. It depends. I have so many projects to complete, but basically, you have this group of heroes, and they, throughout their journey, they it's not that they change overnight, but they help each other grow more into what their core is, and strengthen their core. And then when you have this insane, massive, in scope, altercation in the end of the book, you begin to understand that they've stayed the same. However, by staying the same, they have changed and grown so much immensely that you will understand it when you read the ending of the book.
Gotcha. Okay, so that, I guess, concludes that part of the show.
I think I rambled long enough.
Yeah, well, that was the point of the interview part.
Yes.
All right, so everyone should remember, grab themselves, well, anything from Star Shatter, and of course, Lord of Bones. It's quite good. I'll have to post a link in the description when. No, wait, I can't on YouTube right now, but I'll post it in the comment section. Thankfully, the comment section is pretty barren right now for Alliance authors, so you can find it in the comment section. Now, as well as Black Knight's Substack. Now, enough plugging. I'm gonna just ask. Let me see if I can find the link. Just a minute. Wait. Where am I looking here? I was gonna ask your opinion about the article I wrote a few days ago.
I hope I read it. I mean, I read most of your articles. It's probably let's see if
it'll load. Less is not more, but less. What do you now? The main thing I want to ask you is, what do you think of the phenomenon of publishers just trying to say, less is more? And I noticed this as a broad trend across film, video games, comics, and books. And what it made me think of was how George Lucas, when he was making the 1977 Star Wars movie, he cut out about 30 to 40 minutes of almost entirely Luke Skywalker scenes. And there were some scenes, some deleted scenes I saw, not all, but they were in the book from 1976, but not in the movie. And some of those scenes I thought were really important in helping flesh Luke out and making it so that he was aware of the battle overhead, and so that you get his perspective, in a way, of the battle between Leia's ship and Vader's. And this is the sort of detail that would have added. And there
Oh,
was,
yes.
like I said, a lot of characterization stuff. But Spielberg and Scorsese came in and told him he needs to get a video editor. So they had him cut out 30 to 40 minutes. And I couldn't help but think it wasn't so much that this was editing, but so much as a butchering.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
desecration. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
remember talking to Dan and saying, did Scorsese and Spielberg help select the editor, which later became Lucas's wife, who later left him? But did they end up suggesting massive edits because they were trying to help, or were they trying to harm this movie because it was better with George's vision? And I just wondered because Spielberg, because I've met some people in the film industry and I've read some of their memoirs and whatnot. Spielberg and Scorsese are not the nice guys they like to present themselves as. They're kind of gangsters. And that's where, actually, I've had some people I know compare them to and call them the Hollywood gangsters. And where it's like they'll butcher any project, or they'll, there isn't a back and grab to get to the top. And I know people don't like hearing this about their heroes, but this is kind of a fact that anyone who's ever kind of intersected with that industry, because I used to be an animation student, and a lot of people in animation said, like, these guys, you don't ever work for them. You don't want to be around them. They're dangerous for your soul and whatnot. Now, a lot of them had admiration for them, but said they're dangerous men in a lot of ways. And I guess my point is, they advised George less is more, and Lucas took their advice. So I'm just wondering, is this, so I know it's a long story short, or not so short, is this the industry trying to help writers, or just trying to butcher futuristic and mythic fiction?
It's you can look at it this way. Let's say first they want to actually shorten things, because they assume that the public is, they project their own
Stupidity.
their own caged mind upon the wider audience, and they assume that they are as dumb as them, and they say, oh no, this sentence, oh no, this idea is described in way too way flowery, almost like inspirational way, and they don't have the mental capacity to grasp it. Oh no, they will be bored and blah 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 blah. So this is like, I'm 100% sure that there are people like that. They actually do think like that, and that is why they keep chanting this mantra, which on a certain level, I have to admit that in some cases, there are specific cases where, yes, if you polish something, if you distill it, especially if you're writing like a speech with, or you're using something which is almost like these old school party slogans, yes, then less is indeed more. Or if you're trying to do something like Lao Tzu or Sun Tzu, like some distilled wisdom, line of wisdom, like a
Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah. Then, but if you're trying to world build something which is incredibly imaginative and you want to inspire others to think and to research for themselves and to like read something else and think about this and that. No. Then it's like this is death. Less is more is death. And then you have this like you can look at it from another angle is that of course you have people who want to sabotage. They want to stifle creativity and make sure that you have this gray mass of people who are constantly sad, who lack imagination because they have never trained it, because that imagination is a mental muscle. You have to train it. You have to read. You have to immerse yourself in fantastic realms and heroic battles and like drink from the example of heroes. So if these are people who work for, I mean, people is kind of a loose word describing them, but these persons, they actually exist. I mean, of course, evil exists, and the easiest for them to help their masters who are up in the ladder higher is to like dumb down the public, make everyone miserable and sad and depressed, so no one gets like interesting ideas, inspirational ideas, and starting, hey, wait a minute, no, this ain't right, like, because I've read about this hero who sacrificed himself or herself to achieve some goal and free people and this, like, no, they're screwing us up, so they want this to stop. And the last angle, which I think is like, there are people who do not care about any of this, and they're just into the technicalities and the counting of beans. I mean, I don't have anything against that, but they want things to be optimized for the mediums that they represent, meaning that a movie, they don't want to overspend on a movie, so the movie should be like under 1 hour and 30 minutes, because that's like, they have this like everything is science and math for them, like that's their analytical minds think like that. And so when they go to a director like Lucas and say, oh no, you can't have this movie, it's like 3 hours long, no, we have to cut it, like cut this scene and cut that scene, and he's like, but that's like the establishment of a character. No, you don't need it, cut this, and they don't hate him or her, they just like, we have to like fit in the mold. But that's a huge danger too, because the fucking mold, it gets moldy if you don't change it once in a while. If you don't clean it, it gets moldy. It gets like, it starts to rot, and that's one of the huge reasons why modern Hollywood is full of crap.
Yeah, and I'll actually defend the mold a little, just a little, and defend the bean counters a little. There is a place for bean counters.
I actually did.
Yeah, I know you did. For in accounting and whatnot, as you pointed out. I'll also defend the mold in this regard. Now, back in the day, it's been a long time since I saw it, but whenever I see it, I still love it. There's Digimon Season 1, and there's also Yu-Gi-Oh! The first season. And what they both did was that Digimon had to fit within a certain time frame, and it had a lot of story to tell, within 20 minutes. And so it had to get creative with how quickly it told the story and whatnot. Yu-Gi-Oh, for its part, had censures which said no killing, so they had to get creative and invent basically hell for their world, the Shadow Realm. So some bursts of creativity are born from having limits put on you as a creative. So there are times when having someone say, this is the mold, you're not allowed to do this or that, you have to get creative about it. And then it gets even more brilliant in that regard. So, yeah, but I just think the thing with publishers is they've really gotten too much into the, less is more slogan. And I'm starting to think that maybe for, well, you hinted at it with your comments about Hollywood and whatnot. The slogans, like less is more, or, the woman is the future or something. I don't know. The future is female or something. These slogans have done more harm to creative brands and creatives than anything else, I think. Because, like the whole DIE thing, diversity, inclusivity, exclusivity thing, is basically a slogan. And to make the bean counters, especially sociopathic ones, feel better about themselves. So, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of it is
yes,
just
I know. It's I've lived it. I mean,
yeah, you've lived it far more than I
the previous version of it. Yeah, it's the bureaucracy, the bureaucratic apparatus, because it in these regimes it gets like super over bloated. It's bloated currently in the West, but for similar reasons, but we don't have to go into that. So we had these same people, and they were the ones who were highly invested in propagating all of that like
nonsense.
Slow, yeah. They were highly invested because it actually gave them more power and more influence, and they could basically, without doing any serious work, without creating anything useful for the society, they could lord it over like thousands of people, and whenever someone dared criticize them, they're like, how dare you criticize the holy Communist Party, or in our case it's like different, but the principle is exactly the same. And this is a story as old as human civilization, until we go into full Star Shutter mode. But that's for the readers to discover. So yeah, these people, they can do what they do because what? Normal people tolerate them, and other being counters and like other analytical minds, they tolerate them. If they stop tolerating them, especially other minds like theirs, if they stop tolerating them, everything stops. Everything is like, that's the end. That's it. This is how all of these regimes here fell apart.
It's also that, looking at it from a historic perspective, they also fail when the top gets overbloated more so than the bottom, and then they just crash.
Yes, they help that, by the way. You know that tale about the Soviet statistics? It's that we have this 5-year plan, and we have to produce this much grain and blah blah blah, but we've already misallocated the funds that we needed, or we sold the let's say the tractors, we sold them, or they're not working because we have been embezzling funds for years, and so we can't make this. But if we report to our higher ups in the bureaucratic machine that we fucked up, they are going to gulag us. What do? We lie. We say, oh yes, we completed our 5-year plan quotas. Like everything is perfect. It's hunky dory. You don't need to come here and look at the farm. It's beautiful. It's perfect. And the guys like up, the bureaucrats are, yeah, you've completed the plan, but it's like it's not making us look good. Let's inflate the numbers. They inflate the numbers. They send the data up, and the people who are above them, they're like, it doesn't make us look good. Let's inflate the numbers.
And when
it keeps getting inflated and inflated and inflated. And one day, one of the top party brass decided to send his young protege, let's say that's a comrade,
idiotus.
No, why? Let's say it's a naive, like one of these naive neoparatchik who's like actually believes the whole shtick.
Comrade
Is
Boris.
Okay, Comrade Boris. So Comrade Boris is like, yes, Comrade Minister of Agriculture, I'll go there and see the kolkhoz. And he packs his suitcase. He hops on the
Train.
And he goes to village. I don't know, Derevianskoe or like whatever, and he goes there and he's like he expects to see like huge fields of rye and hundreds of tractors and combines and hard-working
Bulgarians.
the hard-working proletariat. And he goes there and he sees like ruins.
Yeah. Whoops.
And he's like, what? But it says here on paper that you produced that many tons of grain. Where the fuck is it? Like what? And he swiftly realized that if he reports that, something will happen to him. So he joins in on the lie. And that was what actually, that was one of the huge reasons why all of these regimes fell apart. Because it was lie within a lie within a lie. And it's like the lies grew and grew and grew and grew. And everyone knows that it's a lie because they have participated in it. And they know it, and it eats them from the inside.
Why? Mais, comme ce que moi j'observe, what I'm observing is that I think the West is doing the same thing right now. Like, you look at the feminist story my brother wrote about a few days ago on Substack, on the Alliance Authors Substack. Apparently, some of the feminist groups are saying, I think like a third or something of all Korean marriages have physical abuse, and so there shouldn't be any marriages anymore in Korea or something, and no procreation and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, but that's obviously BS, and it's the numbers are overblown, and like things like that. There's things like women don't need no man. These sort of lies are being built upon one another. And you also have, like, for example, sales numbers, which are obviously inflated and whatnot. So I think the U.S. is kind of following in the footsteps of the USSR. Yes, well, it already has U.S. in its name.
Yes. When any of us begin to hint about this reality, this is objective reality for us because we've seen it, we've lived through it.
Yeah.
It's either people laugh at us, or then you have like these black pillars who are like, no, everything is doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Doomed.
Civilization's gonna end in a day or two.
Yes, you're doomed. And we've had many of them back in the day. These were the people who had to live with lies, who had to, who weren't the ones who had said the first lie, but they had to live with it, with the lies, and had to were forced to participate in the lies. And this is like the most demoralizing part of this entire shit. And that's why you have so many young people, especially young men, and now the young women follow, because without the young men, they suddenly found themselves on a shit ton of drugs. They go down the alcoholic route, and or they try to mend a problem which is quite easily it's much easier to fix. They try to mend it with insanely expensive drugs and shit that is actually they're actually killing themselves. And that was not that different than what happened in, let's say, the Soviet Union, for example.
Now, when it comes to the U.S., when it comes to like where it's at, like, or at least I should say the U.S. American Empire, where would you say like it's at in the, let's say, I'm going to say in the 80s, but like, is it like in the early Gorbachev, like 80s, or like
late Gorbachev, yes, late.
Okay. I ask because you're more knowledgeable than I am about this.
I am probably, because I've
lived it.
First I lived it, and I mean, I'm not like all knowing, but I bumped into different people. I've had contact with as a young man and as a teenager with different artists. And probably I had this. I learned this quite young and quite early. What happens when you are a creative, someone who makes art? Under this style of quote unquote governance. It's not governance. It's like it's oppression. It's I mean, you see it in their eyes, like when you ask them a question about, let's say, a painting, and you can see that he or she they wanted to do something else, but they self-censored themselves because they knew that if they did it, at the very least, that would have been the end of their careers. Like they would have been, like they've been fucked.
Ironically,
it's the same thing here, and there is something else that certain segment of your population who have swallowed the black pill, and they're the voice of doom.
The black pill is a suppository, so how could they swallow it? It goes up the butt, not into the mouth. Okay.
Probably. But they say, oh no, it's one company will fall, and then nothing will change. It's like, no, you
BlackRock will
it's
rule
actually
the world
it's actually happening before your very eyes, but you're just, no, I don't want to see it. And they actually do not wish to see it. They don't want to see it. They have almost no hope left. Even if they actually see something, is like, yeah, but is this a real change? Nah, It's like a doom will follow. Well,
I
I knew a couple of guys who knew my dad back in the day, and they were constantly telling they were constantly they would get drunk, and they would say, "Oh, it's everything is pointless. Why are you working for that? Blah blah blah. Why are you doing this? Why are you training? Why are you running? Why are you reading books? Blah blah blah." It's like because I am not like you. I don't want to end like you. I mean, I can see what you're doing. Nothing. Nothing.
I think,
And this is one of the. I'm sorry. It's like this is one of the goals of those who actually are on the top. They want people to be like that.
yeah, I was about to comment on that. I also think what's interesting is now, I live in North America, but as everyone knows, Canada and Quebec are more. Well, we look more to Europe, and we're more European than the U.S. and always have been. But what I was going to say is, for we Europeans, there's a different perspective on this empire. We are the vassals. We are not the imperial citizens, so to speak. So we don't have as much invested in the empire, so to speak. So what I was going to say is, let's say a different empire rises to challenge this one, and let's say this one falls. Well, I have the weird perspective that, for example, many European countries will recover, will continue going. Asia will continue going. Even if, let's say, the US falls, our lives will largely kind of be the same in a way. We'll have there will be a period where it's lurching a little, but a different reserve currency will rise and life will generally get back on track. Now, I'm not saying that, to badmouth the US. I just mean there's a different perspective for us. And we look at, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but like you in Bulgaria and myself in, well, French-speaking Canada, we have very different perspectives on l'État uni. Like we look at the US and we think and feel differently. And I don't know, because I meet a lot of people and it's like, well, there's nothing after the US. And it's like, well, what do you mean? There was a world before and there's a world after. Just as there was a world before Canada and there's going to be a world after. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I don't know if that's making any sense or
Yeah,
not.
it does. It does. It's the continuation of everything, pretty much.
History.
Yeah, that's the flow of events, and some things repeat because it's how one of my professors said. Like he was in the beginning. He was part of the bureaucratic machine, but just like Thomas Sowell, for example, he was like an idealist. He's like, yes, we're going to build the real communism. And with every day, he was like, his enthusiasm was like waning. And one day was like, oh, you motherfuckers. So he said that one day everything ends. It's like both the good and the bad ends. Like it's
Yeah.
and another thing that he said, it was which also my grandmother said too, was that the longer a bad thing is being postponed, the harder it crushes. So if you have this this evil regime, like let's say in China or North Korea, that they are sending people to concentration camps and doing horrible shit. Like the longer it is allowed to exist, the harder the fall. So, I mean, it's natural that like all living things will die and all things will break eventually, and that it's like things will fall apart and new things will arise, but that's the like natural. It's a natural, yeah, it's natural order of things. But this like keeping maintaining a regime like that, it's a natural. Like the entire existence of such a regime is not quite. I mean, it's the nature of evil, but prolonging its existence is like, why?
I agree. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. It, like, if it's, this is something which I really liked in, I will admit, World of Warcraft. No king rules forever. And that's something I really do agree with that line. I think that it was very prescient when Metzen wrote that. I think, though, like, for example, one thing I don't really want to see end is, when it comes to the U.S., would probably be like American. Weirdly, I think there's been a lot of good literature that's come out of the U.S., so I wouldn't want to see that kind of end. But I know, there's also been a lot of bad literature, especially lately. So, things like that you can have mixed feelings about. And the U.S., we've got to bear in mind, has been around for the blink of an eye in human history. It's like 250 years or so. That's a very short period when you consider France, Bulgaria, England, Scotland, Italy, Spain, like Japan, China and Egypt, and even Korea.
India, especially India.
Yeah, and these are places that have, like they've seen the millennia pass and whatnot. But yeah, like the only thing that's really eternal is, at least for us Christians, is God. And but as to the publishing and mainstream of this, I guess you could say, empire, it's going through a bad period, and the sloganeering is not helping it. But what's so odd to me is also that there's so little pushback from a lot of writers. You know what I mean? Like J.K. Rowling and others, they're not really pushing back. And I guess it has to do with the fact that they're invested in it. You know what I mean?
Yes, they are. They can't push back and topple the wall they're leaning at, because they'll fall together with the wall. And even though you can say that some of them are kind of like kicking the wall, but those are like gentle kicks. They're not, they're not sledgehammer hits. Well, I suppose that it has to be someone who is the outsider, who does not belong to that apparatus, who would be invested in taking care of that, all of that crap, and restoring the what worked, restoring the old that was working actually, and then use it as a fuel to, just like it always happens, to create new things. because you cannot create the new without the old.
Yeah. So I guess
I'm talking
you're
about
saying,
the old that's working, not like some,
yeah.
not you know
So
what I mean.
I guess what we need is a Donald Trump. Let's make the publishing industry great again.
Well, this is like if you look at it, especially the post-Soviet, the post-Soviet years, everything was it did not magically become corrupt overnight or not working like overnight. No, it was already like this. It's just that things finally reached that point which I mentioned earlier, that it was kept on
Life support.
life support for far too long, and when things stopped, when someone pulled the plug finally, or the plug kind of like burned, like fried itself, because the electric the wiring was never maintained, etc., etc. So when it finally stopped working, the people are like, oh, why suddenly, why is this so bad? And the rest of the populace who actually lived eyes wide open and knew what was happening, they could actually see it. We're not blinded by propaganda, or we're just not living day by day for like working for some barely operating factory or whatever. And they were like, but it's always been like this. You're just waking up right now, and everything is it was like we have these people here who are like dreaming for the old communist times. It was like, it was so good. We had this, we had that, and most of them were like apparatchiks, or their families had like connections, so they had like access to more stuff. And very few actually, there were very few actually lucky people who were like us, like middle class, quote unquote, and they've had it well. That was like that's a stroke of luck. That yeah.
Sorry.
So
I think I was
yeah.
out there. Oh, yeah. So now another piece of news I wanted to discuss with you was something I was told about, and I hadn't been paying attention. I'm sorry, but I don't know if this is this was a thing in the communist period of Bulgaria, but now this is going to be a two-part question. I don't pay much attention to news and what is going on too much in the publishing industry, even though it concerns me, but I don't pay much attention to the trends of the industry, because it just seems to me they change either so quickly or so slowly. What's the point? I don't know if that was a thing, like not in the publishing industry, but overall in life.
Yeah, it's a point where this kind of like this type of period, it gets to a point where things change, but they don't change. The more things change, the more they don't change.
Yeah.
And they say, like they announce with loud applause. It's like, yes, we're doing this and that, and it's super successful, but it's gaslighting. It's it doesn't work. So we had this, of course, as I mentioned earlier, I had like I knew a couple of artists, and let's say the publishing scene, you had these like mammoth publishers, and of course all publishers had to toe the party line. It's pretty much the same right now.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just like the wording is different. So, but they had these checkboxes, and once in a while they would remove an older checkbox and replace it with a newer checkbox. And a friend that I knew back then, he was like an older teacher and was writing articles, and he's like, yes, they gave us like this list, the quote unquote new list. It's like it's the old list. And I'm like, but they said that it was a new list. And he's like, listen there, you little, let me tell. And he actually said that they did not change anything. They just changed the language. They changed the words.
It's the
But
same
it was the
thing.
same thing. It's the same shit. They just sprinkled different. What was that? Yeah.
Oh,
It's the same.
Vasily Deki vient de me frapper. Meet the new list, same as the old list. It's like
Yeah.
meet the new boss, same as the old.
Yeah,
But
it's and or they would say like, oh yes, we're changing this. We are let's say we are invested in doing the so-called perestroika.
well,
We are finally on the road to achieving real socialism, and
oh my gosh,
it's nothing. They're basically empty
Nice, oh my gosh,
platitudes, clapping their hands and hoping, marching on one spot. It's you can if you want to know how Soviet Union kind of operated, you can go to any company that has quote unquote embraced DEI. HR is like the political office.
it is. I've worked as a teacher, and the thing is, there is an HR department for the school board, and the HR department everybody fears, and the union hates with a passion. Now, the union, contrary to some of the stereotypes, actually has some great people in it, and they defend people. And the thing is, the HR department though is despised and regarded as a waste of money, resources, and almost human beings. Like, it's just despised. And like almost everywhere I've worked, I've worked even for a bit of a conversation school in Japan, and there was no HR, and you only had maybe 3 or 4 people who worked there, and things went smoothly enough business wise. Whereas when you work for a school board, the HR is just a nightmare and drags everything down, and they keep wanting to dumb down the education. But my other question when it came to publishing trends and book trends was, I didn't even know this, but people told me today, or at least, no, I think a few days ago, like romantasy is now the thing that's being pushed forward. I thought we were still in the age of grimdark and whatnot. Romantasy now, but with the die thing. Sorry, that's the real name, die, because it's going to die. Like the LGB. I have no idea what alphabet number.
It's the same crap. It's just like the so-called new language, and it was as it was known back in the day. It's like yes, we have this retarded goal, and we will push for it. It doesn't matter how many people die, doesn't matter how many futures are ruined, but us, because we are the special ones, we will persevere, we will grow, we will get richer and more influential because we are the chosen ones, we are the superior ones, we are this and that. And then you look at them and you realize that they're just gray puppets with hollow souls. But this thing gives them power, and because literally no one has like organized any effective uh, resistance against them. I mean, we are in the beginning stages of it, basically, and it is helped by their own laziness and ineptitude, of course.
Yeah.
Just like it was back in the day, because these people they don't want to work. They are basically parasites.
They are. And but as to, well, I was going to say, like, real quick, I also want to discuss, like I said, the whole, like, did you even notice the transfer to
No,
I had no idea.
I had
Like-
no fucking idea. I knew that they were introducing something new because I have when I upload new books and I change stuff, because I'm currently in the stage of reformatting some of my projects, and I see that they are changing on Amazon. They're changing. They're adding genres and stuff, removing, switching words, and this is like, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care, and you don't care either. You're just pandering. You're just like,
Exactly.
you're just racking brownie points, and that's like checking boxes. Just look at us. We're
On est si intelligent, regarde-nous. On
yes,
peut-
yes, we're so
Changer la
brilliant. Haha. Look
Yeah,
at us.
it's
We
no.
can ride the unicycle. Look, we can juggle. Haha. While riding the unicycle. Look at us. Haha. No, just no.
Yeah.
We back in the day, we had like these specific, very strange so-called genres of socialist and communist fiction stuff. Like, I had forgotten them, but this reminds me of that. Like, they were always heavily into subverting culture
Yeah.
and rewriting stuff. And I remember that we were allowed to have this one single magazine for kids, which do you know? Could you guess the name of the magazine?
No.
you?
I
Would you try?
I'll try. All right. Let's see. Let me think. I gotta think like a Russian here, which is hard for me.
Pick a single word. Like, it doesn't have to be Russian.
Okay. The Steel Fiction or the Iron Fiction magazine. I'll say Iron Fiction.
No, it was actually called Rainbow.
Almost.
Yes, but
Oh, man.
but back in the day, because they weren't
Gay.
quite tolerant of, they kind of send them to, to these involuntary vacation places, together with everyone who was a thought criminal, etc., etc. So they kind of like, just like Che Guevara and other comrades who said that the gay people must be dealt with. It's like, I'm not putting words in their mouths. Like they said that. So this magazine actually had like some nice stuff in it. It had so-called comic like version of The Hobbit.
Ooh.
It
That
was
sounds
really
cool.
nice. It was really cool. That was probably the one cool thing that we had. Like that's it. And but
Uh-huh.
the comrades, they had to shove their the message And so we had like a number of other comic like stories in this magazine, and everything was chock full of you know what.
Trash.
It's like, yes, we have space communism now. Like there was a sci-fi shit which was yeah, but at least the art was okay. The art was nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but why is this character doing this? Like, I've already had like this from my this exact same sermon from my school advise of quote unquote advisor. They didn't call them commissars; they called them advisors. And I'm like, okay, fuck off. It's like this magazine was solely and specifically purchased just for The Hobbit. That's it. And there was like, what was that thing that I forgot the name? I forgot the word. Where you have this picture which is not coloring page. Yeah. So yeah, that was it for the kids. That's it.
So I'm thinking we'll be ending soon, but I wanted to ask because I figure we might as well end on something positive. Honestly, I think I asked this last time we spoke, but the very idea of the subgenre romantasy, like just the name and the idea, is astonishing to me. I know, and I mean, not in
It's
like
astonishingly stupid.
Well, I was going to say like for the women's part of the genre, like mythic, like the romance stuff, like Sailor Moon. To me, that strikes me as amazing. And I was going to say, I think there's some positive to it, like that if you click on romantasy, we can shove all the romance stuff into a corner if we want. But like I know
they would not like that. They want to be. They would want it to be everywhere. So
yeah, I know. But I meant with those writers like Thérèse Junena, who writes really good, like stuff that feels like Miyazaki or Little Mermaid. Like that's basically romantasy. I meant like that branch of it, that more positive. I'm not trying to be like defending the nonsense that's being pushed forward, but I meant like like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. That's romantasy for all intents and purposes.
That's just.
Well, I know they're very.
That's old school fairy tales.
Yeah.
They don't need it. Like they don't need to rebrand old school fairy tales to fit there. Like, yes, because this is one of the sicknesses of these persons is that they can't create, and thus they have to take someone's else take something that somebody else did, made it, and they will rebrand it and use it as their own.
I know. No, I meant something else. Like, okay, how do I word it? I guess a better example would be Sailor Moon, or over on Substack, Catherine Elaine or Thérèse Junena. They write mythic fiction with a lot of romantic themes and ideas. I guess what we could call romantasy. And I was going to say, like, what they're doing is very positive. And it's, in a lot of cases, it's really well written. And it's none of this gay nonsense. Je suppose que I'm just thinking that, like, you know what I mean? What they're doing is they're deliberately writing something called romantasy, but it's not the same as what the publishing industry is pushing forward. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean, but
yeah,
the way they want it to work is that eventually, if they
it'll go gay.
Uh, they would like if things went their way completely, fully, 100%. They would want to enforce specific
Regulations.
regulations, just like it was back in the day. They would
Hmm.
want to do it, and it could only happen if they have full and complete governmental authority, which they do not yet, and
Yeah.
hopefully they will never have because it's falling
Yeah.
apart. But
Well,
if they did, it will be exactly what it was back then. If you want to say, let's say, right romanticy, let's take this as an example. The party will send you a list, and you will have check boxes.
yeah.
And to be like you would not be able, like Catherine, for example, she would not be able to write anything which is outside of these guardrails, these boundaries, these
These parameters.
regulations. Yeah, she would have to write this or not write at all.
Yeah. I guess what my point is that with them trying to build something on Substack, like rebranding the brand in a way, you know what I mean?
Oh
Towards
yeah,
something more grassroots, like Thorny Thursday.
yeah, yeah.
I guess I just thought that was something
Yeah,
positive.
that's one of the ways that let's
Mhm.
say poetry survived quite well,
Yeah.
because it was basically underground,
Yeah.
and you had these poets who wrote songs for like different artists were
Mm.
actually writing stuff, and this is how they kind of survived. Um, they they were part of the so-called guild, like the artist guild that the party had ruled and created and ruled, and they actually they subverted the subversion. They subverted the subverters, and it's we're at basically we're at this point where
Mhm.
you have like enough indies, and we need more. We need more indies,
More.
more.
Hi.
And the
Yeah.
more indies we have, of course, not everyone will continue um, their work
No.
because real life happens. Something like people change their mind, etc. Like they have difficulties. But the more indies we have, like the faster will this happen. This will happen. It's
Mm.
inevitable. It cannot be stopped. It can only be slowed down. And they will, when they fall apart, they will try to, and this is one of the dangers, they will try to hop, like the parasites, they'll try to hop on our backs and continue what they're doing. Like they will
But they won't
just
be
like,
able to.
yeah, it's not this time. So this is like the probably the most hopeful thing that you need to know. You just look at all the evils that fell apart in the past. Just look at them. They're there. They're there for you to look and nurture the hope in your heart.
Mm.
Just look at them.
Yeah. And I guess, well, what I was going to say, what gave me, like, I looked at the very idea of romanticy as very scornfully, not because I knew of the whatever agenda, but just because I was like, it's not, like
Not again.
real. Well, it's more
We're
like
like, nah, not
a
again.
girly version of Lord of the Rings. Ugh, like we need that. But I'm reading Therese Judena's one of her books. I'm proofreading for her, and actually, her prose is really good. I'm very impressed. Her writing is really good, and while it's a girly version, of things, I'm kind of looking at it and going, "Oh, there's some artistic merit here." But I think that romantasy, if it's to survive, it'll be the girlish version or side of the mythic genre, and that'll be where a lot of female poets and writers drift to. You know what I mean? But
Yes, and Space Opera Sailor Moon,
yeah,
which I do have in my in Starship. I actually have. Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah,
yeah. But
I have them.
yeah. All right. So everyone knows where we can find Black Knight. He's over on Substack. The links will be down below. And his Amazon page will, of course, be there because, well, there's too many books to not to recommend. And yeah, so we talked about just about everything with this industry. Hopefully, we'll have more to talk about in a few days. I really do want to discuss things like not just the industry, but like prose and the direction of art. And I'm probably gonna have to pay more attention to what my brother and Tom Highland and others are writing on the Alliance Authors Substack because they deal with all this pop culture stuff. Maybe we'll get into that and use that to piggyback onto actual art and talking Star Shatter and things that actually matter.
Yes, and also, like I just mentioned, it's we need you if you think that you have hopeful, and even if it's not
Beautiful.
hopeful, a nice, beautiful story that's worthwhile telling. Tell it. Don't stop. Tell it.
Agreed. So until next time, everyone, remember to smash the subscribe button, support Black Knight's books, and if you want to support mine, there's also My Crown of Blood. And I guess we'll see you guys next time on our next Sunday Nights episode. Toodles.